Monday, June 11th, 5:10 p.m.
Ray Rivera was inside the club that night, DJing in the patio area.
And I heard something sound like firecrackers, and at that point I went ahead and kind of lowered the music, thought maybe someone was playing a prank.
It wasn't. A shooter carrying a handgun and an AR-15 assault-style rifle had entered the club, spraying bullets. He took cover behind his DJ booth before scrambling out of the club.
Just all hell broke loose. People running for the door, jumping over the gate.
2:09 a.m. A message was posted on the club's Facebook page. Everyone get out of post and keep running. Meanwhile, an off-duty police officer working security at the club was trying to stop the shooter, according to Orlando Police Chief John Mina.
Our officer engaged in a gun battle with that suspect. The suspect at some point back in where more shots were fired.
Minutes later, clubgoer Anthony Torres, after escaping into a car just up the street, recorded video of police cars swarming around the club and uploaded this at 2:16 a.m.
Look at that, just shooting back and forth. That is crazy.
About a half-mile north, Dr. Michael Cheetah and other surgeons were preparing to receive the wounded at Orlando Regional Medical Center.
We were notified of many victims, gunshot victims. Central Florida's only level 1 trauma center, we immediately activated our mass casualty incident plan.
Back at the club at around 2:30 a.m., about a half hour after the shooting began, the shooter dialed 911, according to FBI Director James Comey, who spoke to reporters today.
He called and he hung up. He called again and spoke briefly with the dispatcher, and then he hung up. And then the dispatcher called him back again, and they spoke briefly. So there were 3 total calls.
Calls during which the shooter pledged allegiance to ISIS and said he was inspired by the Boston Marathon bombers and a suicide bomber from Florida who was enlisted from Syria. About an hour and a half after that first call, at 3:58 a.m., the Orlando Police Department's Twitter account warned residents to stay away from the area. It had turned into a hostage situation, says Police Chief John Mina.
We were being contacted by people in the bathroom nearby, at least 15 people that were in a separate area, and our biggest concern was future loss of life.
More than an hour later, the department confirmed on Twitter that there was a controlled explosion at the club. It was part of a rescue mission to open up an exterior bathroom wall. Law enforcement eventually made a hole big enough so that dozens of survivors could escape.
The suspect came out of that hole himself, armed with a handgun and a long gun, engaged in a gun battle with officers, where he was ultimately killed.
A tweet confirmed the shooter's death at 5:53 a.m., ending a national nightmare about a half hour before sunrise. Anzila Wong, NPR News, Orlando.
We are getting more details now about that shooter. His name is Omar Mateen. He was 29. He lived in Fort Pierce on Florida's southeastern coast. NPR's Eric Westerveld went there to talk to people who knew Mateen. And Eric Westerveld is with us now from member station WQCS in Fort Pierce. And Eric, what have Mateen's co-workers told you about him?
Hi, Kelly. I'd say a slightly contradictory portrait is sort of emerging of the shooter. I mean, some people where Mateen worked as a security guard, and some former neighbors even say he was polite, friendly, even helpful at times. But others say he was giving to bouts of intense anger and hatred and threats. A former co-worker of his at a security firm, David Gilroy, says Mateen was homophobic, racist, would threaten violence regularly. He tells media outlets here, Kelly, that he alerted his bosses to Mateen's erratic and odd behavior and nothing at all was done about it. We called that security firm today, G4S, to ask about that. They declined to speak with us on the record, other than saying they're cooperating fully with law enforcement.
And we know that the FBI had twice looked at Mateen. Tell us about those investigations.
Yeah, the FBI interviewed Mateen in 2013 and 2014 for possible links to terrorism. The comments that unnerved some co-workers and sparked this investigation included threats and boasts, some of them contradictory. Here's FBI Director James Comey speaking today. First, he claimed family connections to Al-Qaeda. He also said that he was a member of Highlands, which is a Shia terrorist organization that is a bitter enemy of the so-called Islamic State. So it seems the shooter had trouble distinguishing between Sunni and Shia extremists, showing perhaps She was also committed jihadist, Kelly, and just unstable.
We also know that Omar Mateen has an ex-wife, and she has spoken out since the attack. What sort of details is she filling in about him?
Yeah, he got married to a woman he met online, Kelly, an immigrant from Uzbekistan named Decatur Yusufi. They bought a house. Life seemed pretty good by all accounts back then. But Ms. Yusufi says Omar quickly became abusive, verbally and physically. She says he was mentally unstable. He wouldn't let her leave the house except to go to work. That he beat her. He confiscated money and paychecks. Here she is speaking yesterday outside her home near Boulder, Colorado.
In the beginning, he was a normal being that cared about family, loved to joke, loved to have fun. But then a few months after we were married, I saw his instability, and I saw that he was bipolar, and he would get mad out of nowhere.
Kelly Yusufi says she escaped finally with the help of her family, and she added that while Omar was a devout Muslim who prayed often, she never heard him express sympathy for extremist groups. She did say he would make derogatory statements pretty regularly about homosexuals.
What more are authorities saying about this question of whether he was just unstable or somebody who was formally linked to these groups?
The investigation is still ongoing, and right now they say they can't determine one way or the other, but folks we've talked to down here say it's pointing to an unstable individual with violent tendencies.
Concerned Eric Westervelt in Fort Pierce, Florida. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Throughout the day, we've been learning more about the 49 people who were murdered yesterday. 20-year-old Luis Omar Ocasio Capo was born and raised in Puerto Rico. He and his family moved to Cleveland when he was a kid. In 2013, Ocasio Capo moved to Orlando, and he planned to enroll at nearby Valencia College for theater.
His older sister, Melanie Ocasio Capo, says his true love is dance.
He danced his little self off. He loves dancing hip-hop, salsa, merengue, bachata, anything you could put on the radio, he will dance.
And that was how Omar spent his final hours. One of the last images of him was posted by a friend on Snapchat. It was a video of Omar dancing with friends at Pulse nightclub just a couple of hours before the shooting began.
His sister, Melanie, says that's exactly how he would have wanted to be remembered.
He always told me, Ellie, if something ever happens to me, just make sure you don't cry, please. I just want you guys to have fun. I know it's going to hurt, but I just want you guys to literally just have fun and just know that I'm with you guys no matter what. And I just took it as, okay, I got you. And he always told me, if something happens, remember, my favorite color is yellow.
She says while her family is heartbroken, they've been bolstered by the outpouring of support from those who loved him.
I have people from Mexico, from Vegas, from California, Colombia, Salvador. I have so many people writing me on Facebook. I know my brother was loved, and that is one thing that I'm okay with, because I know that he made a difference in other people's lives.
That was Melanie Ocasio Capo talking about her brother. Luis Omar Ocasio Capo was 20.
I'm Susan Stamberg, a founding mother of National Public Radio. In 40 years, we've become a soundtrack of democracy, keeping citizens posted on the ills and joys of life, with recipes, Dow Jones averages, congressional votes, war coverage, providing an indispensable service that's available nowhere else. This is
And you're listening to what represents the Army Station, 88.5 WPBS Midtown. Ricky Devington, thanks so much for tuning in with me this afternoon. This is All Things Considered. Coming up, a Democrat in the Georgia House says she will push for a ban on assault weapons following the mass shootings in Orlando. More in 10 minutes in the newscast. Checking up on your traffic right now. There's a new problem in Fulton County, 25 north on Cascade Road, and accident blocking the right lane there. And that slowdown remains from a two-car and truck accident in Cobb County, 75 southbound at Barrett Parkway. Support for GPB comes from our generous members. And UGA College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences offering science-based majors from biological science to turfgrass management. Information at students.caes.uga.edu. And Booth Museum presenting a touchable exhibit by a blind Native American sculptor, Michael Naranjo, the artist who sees with his hands, on exhibit through July 3rd at Booth Western Art Museum in Cartersville.
Corporate America has always been tough, but never like this.
And basically it was, look to the left, look to the right, some of you won't be here. I think that's when my heart went through the floor, and I'm sure a lot of others too.
I'm Kai Rizal. Our series, The Price of Profit, starts off with a corporate legend, IBM. Next time on Marketplace.
Tune in to Marketplace starting in 40 minutes with Kai Rizal. That's 6 o'clock here on 88.5. Newspapers around the country have powerful front pages this morning about yesterday's Orlando nightclub shooting. You can see a slideshow of the front pages that's up on Twitter right now at Ricky Ebbington. Very slight chance of showers and thunderstorms before 11 o'clock tonight, otherwise partly cloudy skies all around 74 degrees. A good chance of showers and thunderstorms tomorrow for your Tuesday, otherwise mostly sunny, high near 93. The heat index values tomorrow could be as high as 97 degrees. This is 88.5 at 520.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from Chevrolet with the all-new 2016 Chevrolet Malibu for connecting the heart and the eyes through styling, body lines, and stance to create an all-encompassing mid-size car. Learn more at Chevy.com. From Hiscox Insurance, providing customized insurance for small and medium businesses so they can do more and be more. Hiscox Insurance. Encourage courage. Learn more at Hiscox.com or from an agent. And from the National Endowment for the Arts. This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Kim Getter, and I'm Audie Cornish. We're going to take a look now at the connection ISIS may have with the shooting at a gay nightclub in Orlando over the weekend. So far, officials say they suspect the shooter was inspired by ISIS, but was not actually part of a terrorist network. Still, the shooter pledged loyalty to ISIS and calls to 911. And the self-declared Islamic State has reportedly claimed credit for the shooting. FBI Director James Comey said this attack demonstrates the difficulty in stopping so-called lone wolves.
Our work is very challenging. We are looking for needles in a nationwide haystack. We're also called upon to figure out which pieces of hay might someday become needles.
Earlier, I talked via Skype to Ramiki Kalamaki of the New York Times, and she says the shooter's pledge to support ISIS is part of a larger pattern.
ISIS has made clear to their Highlands outside of Iraq and Syria that if they want to do an attack in their name, really all they need to do is, before carrying out the act of violence, they need to pledge an oath of allegiance to the group, and it needs to be public. And here we're seeing a 911 call that was placed in the midst of this bloody attack in which he claims allegiance to the group.
So explain to us exactly how ISIS did take responsibility for this particular attack.
The first claim of responsibility came through the Amaq news agency, which has become ISIS's wire service, if you will. So the attack happened at around 2 a.m. on June 12th, and around 2 p.m. of that day, they claimed responsibility on an encrypted chat called Telegram, and from there it was propagated on Twitter and other social media forums. Today, they then claimed credit again, and this time it was on their official radio station. This is the same sequence of events that we saw after San Bernardino, where Amaq was the first, and then it followed up with the group's official radio station.
So is ISIS claiming direct contact with the shooter in some way, or direct operational support?
No, they're not. It's unclear. What is interesting is that they're using language that is slightly different from San Bernardino. When San Bernardino was claimed by the Amaq news agency, they described the couple as supporters of the Islamic State. In the first claim of responsibility for Orlando, they're describing him as a fighter for the Islamic State.
This all comes after an ISIS spokesman last month actually made a speech calling for followers to come at the prayer during Ramadan and specifically against America. How does that fit into all this?
The whole holy month of Ramadan, which began last week, has traditionally been a time of ramped-up activity for these terrorist groups, not just for ISIS, but also for Al-Qaeda. The reason is that they believe that this month is holy, and therefore an act of jihad against the enemy is going to reap greater rewards for them. So the spokesman of ISIS issued a statement last month where he very clearly called on their adherents in the West, and he specifically named America and Europe, to take it upon themselves to carry out acts of violence against the infidel. And he has an interesting quote in there where he says, no act will be considered too small. And I think what he's doing is he's trying to appeal to isolated people who may not have the means to carry out something very impressive. And in previous speeches, he's essentially said that you can use a knife, you can use a rock to smash the head of an infidel, you can even use a car to try to ram into them, and that all of those acts would be considered part of the larger jihad.
And are people around the world watching these speeches? I mean, how far is their reach?
I don't have an idea of how far the reach is, but what we do know is, in the 2 years since ISIS declared its caliphate, they are now releasing these speeches in more and more languages. Now they're putting them out in Arabic, in English, in French, sometimes in Russian, in Turkish. And so you have to assume that they're doing this because at some level they have an audience among those linguistic groups.
Rukmini Kalamati of the New York Times, thank you for sharing your reporting with us.
Thank you.
As the investigation continues into the Orlando shooter, people around the country are also gathering to mourn the victims and support the LGBT community. Many people have been meeting at the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village in New York. Stonewall is considered the birthplace of the gay rights movement. It was the scene of riots in the late 60s, and it remains an important gathering place for members of the community. New York City's mayor and the state's governor are headed there this evening for the ritual. Jessica Gould of member station WNYC is there now.
Thank you.
First, just tell us a little bit about Stonewall's place in New York. It's kind of become a gathering place in the best of times and the worst of times, right?
Yeah, it absolutely has. I mean, I was here almost exactly a year ago when the Supreme Court legalized gay marriage, and it was just such an exciting time for the community. It had like a festival atmosphere, flowers and balloons and rainbow flags, and couples who were gay and straight with their kids talking about this as a turning point. So as you can imagine, the gathering today is very different.
As people started getting the news out of Orlando yesterday, people were gathering at Stonewall, and what was that scene like?
Hundreds of people came last night, and it looks like it's going to be the same tonight. They've been placing flowers over by the entrance to Stonewall, and some people are proud that they're crying as they put the flowers down. They've also started inscribing in chalk the names of the victims, and there's this deep sadness, as well as some messages of anger, real anger.
What do people say?
Well, people are saying that they really want this to be seen as a hate crime as well as an act of terrorism. They're worried about officials who don't articulate that. And they're saying that, compared to last year when there was this sense of a turning point in the movement, they're saying this year it just feels like the struggle goes on and on.
Elected officials are due there at Stonewall this evening. What else are people gathered there? What else do they want to hear from officials?
They want to hear that they're standing with them. They also want to hear, I've heard, statements in support of gun control, which our Governor Cuomo articulated yesterday, and may be a message that comes out tonight. And of course, again, that this was a hate crime and should be treated as such.
The attack in Orlando is still so recent. Are the people you're talking to, do they seem afraid?
So I've heard mixed responses to that. There's a heavy police presence here, a lot of uniformed officers with big guns walking around, a dozen just standing at the subway and more scattered throughout the crowd. But people tell me, some people say here in New York they feel safe, and they're trying to stand in solidarity with people who are maybe not as safe. And then some people say they felt scared for as long as they've been out, and that they continue to feel fearful. I talked to a couple who said they didn't go to work today because they just wanted to support each other and feel safe in each other's arms. So
Jessica Gold is with member station WNYC in New York. She's at the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to All Things Considered here on the NPR station. This is 88.5 GTV Atlanta. I'm Ricky Bevington. NPR sponsored complete coverage on the aftermath of the Orlando shootings. President Barack Obama's rhetoric on mass shootings has changed as his frustration has grown over the inability to enact gun control measures. We're going to take a look at the president's policies and gun control conversation today. That's ahead in some time. A Democrat in the Georgia House says she will push for a ban on assault weapons following the mass shooting in Orlando. Decatur Representative Mary Margaret Oliver calls it lynched in the Constitution. Quote, it's time for a discussion at a minimum. Earlier this year, Oliver did propose a ban on assault rifles in Georgia. Armor-piercing bullets as well as large-capacity magazines. The House's Republican majority refused to give the bill a hearing. A man accused of killing 3 homeless men and a woman has pleaded guilty to murder and other charges in 2 of the deaths outside of Atlanta. 35-year-old Aiden Presley entered the police today in DeKalb County for the 2014 killings of hairdresser Karen Pierce and Calvin Golston, a homeless man who was sleeping outside. Presley received 2 consecutive life sentences without parole. Fulton County prosecutors are still seeking the death penalty for Presley in the shootings of 2 other homeless men in 2014. Google Fiber is rolling out free plans for Atlanta customers. The packages range from $60 to $130 a month. Fiber is faster than cable internet. Google says it will end its service location soon. Google.fiber.com is where you can actually enter your address to check its availability in your neighborhood. As always, there's more of today's news from NPR and GTV at our website, gtbnews.org. I'm Ricky Bevington. It's 5:30.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Mr. Johnston. President Obama says the U.S. needs a multi-pronged approach as it tries to prevent attacks like the deadly shooting at an Orlando nightclub over the weekend. NPR's Bob Horsley reports the president received an update today on the investigation from national security officials and the FBI.
President Obama says the killer in Orlando appears to be a homegrown extremist, inspired by terrorist propaganda, but not directed by any external group. The president says that's a complex challenge that requires more than just a single solution.
We have to go after these terrorist organizations and put them down. We have to counter extremism. But we also have to make sure that it is not easy for somebody who decides they want to harm people in this country to be able to obtain weapons.
Obama said he hopes for a sober and fact-based conversation. Already, though, the Orlando killings have become caught in a noisy political debate. Specialist for NPR News, the White House.
The vigil will be held tonight to remember the victims of the 39 people who were killed in the rampage. Dozens of others were wounded. Microsoft has announced a major acquisition. The company's work is buying professional networking site LinkedIn. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella says LinkedIn will add a lot of value to its communication.
Now you have the ability, whenever you're looking up a contact, not only to see that contact with the information that's contained in Active Directory, but you can get at the full richness of their information in the professional network. And who are all the others in that professional network?
The deal is valued at more than $26 billion. Stocks closed lower today on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 132 points at 17,732. The Nasdaq down 46 points. The S&P 500 down 17. This is NPR News.
It's a legend now, wasn't always. IBM first up in our series, The Price of Profit. That is next time on Marketplace.
And next time is 6 o'clock. Well, in about 45 minutes. Here on Atlanta's NPR News Station, this is 88.5 GTV Atlanta. I'm Ricky Bevington. Thank you for joining me. I hope your Monday's going well. There's just one major lane closure here in the Metro Atlanta region on major highways. So that problem, 285 north on at Cascade Road, an earlier accident, now blocking a right lane.
Support for GPB comes from our listener members and Oglethorpe University's adult degree program, where students can test drive a course before making a long-term commitment. Oglethorpe offers flexible scheduling and 5 start dates per year. Visit adults.oglethorpe.edu. And the High Museum of Art, now on view at the High Walker Evans Depth of Field, featuring more than 120 prints by one of the most influential documentary photographers of the 20th century. Tickets at every day in the morning edition, it's the news you can't do without. This morning we've been looking at what's happening.
There's conservatism, libertarianism, environmentalism, religion.
We're not props, we're just everyday people.
The count, the room,
Listen to the next morning edition. Join us for morning edition from 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays here on GPB. Looking at your weather forecast, a light chance of showers and thunderstorms before 11 p.m., otherwise partly cloudy overnight, low around 74. Tomorrow, a good chance for showers and thunderstorms. When it's not raining, it'll be mostly sunny, high near 93 degrees, and even hotter is what the heat index is saying. Values could be as high as 97 degrees tomorrow. We are definitely into Atlanta summer, aren't we? Newspapers around the country had powerful front pages this morning about yesterday's Orlando nightclub shooting. You can see a slideshow on Twitter right now at Ricky Bevington. Discover the power of and with AT&T. From Staples, with packing, shipping,